Welcome to the Industry Podcast, where we talk about everything media and entertainment. In this episode, we talked to James Eppler, who told us about his experiences and what we should expect from the journalism industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
So we're all ready to get started then?
Yeah.
Wait. Okay. So, hi, Mr. Eppler. If I could just have you tell me a little bit about yourself.
Wow, so much to tell. Well, I'm born and raised here in Lubbock and love teaching at Texas Tech. I've been a broadcaster for 13 years. Been in media for about 20 though, locally. And so married with a son who's 7 years old and teaching journalism at Texas Tech. Basically, I go to work from about 5 in the morning until I come to class. And so I just work straight those days, but I really do enjoy it because I love what I do for a living. And so being able to teach other people how to do that is something I really enjoy.
That's so cool. So you being in the industry for as long as you have, you've obviously went through an evolution of it. So how would you, or how has the industry changed, let's say from you graduating from college?
So when I got out of college, I was going to be a newspaper man. That is what I wanted to do. And I thought, man, I'm going to write for a local paper and I'm going to write about movies and all kinds of stuff that I love. And I came to find out that newspaper jobs were not easy to come by then. I would think they're even more difficult to come by now. And so I just took a job on TV producing weekends because I thought I'll take what I can get just to get into the business, and fell in love with it and really fell in love with doing news instead of just, okay, all I want to do is entertainment. Now I do entertainment stuff on the side, but focus mainly is on news. It's changed a lot over these last 13 years that I've been with the news station, because now the approach isn't get your story ready for the next newscast. It's develop your story throughout the day and post updates on your social media. And we always think digital first. So as you're putting your story together, you have to send an update to the newsroom. Okay, did this interview? Here's what the mayor is saying about vaccination clinics, right? And so it's just constant updates throughout the day that you're making available a lot of times to the public. And then your story comes together at the end of the day, but it's digital first. And that's really for some of the veterans, quote unquote, like myself, which I hate saying that, but I think my back tensed up a little bit when I said it. But for some of the older guys in the newsroom now, like me, it is a challenge to think nope, got to get it to the web first. Don't prep it for TV hours from now. Get it up now. And that's a new way of thinking.
Right. Would you say that there's pros and cons of going digitally and obviously we're going to keep growing more digitally regardless if we want to or not. So
I think from a journalistic standpoint, when you have that pressure to get stuff out to the public as quick as you can, sometimes there's a risk of maybe it's not ready yet, and maybe you don't quite have all the information that you need to put a story in context. We know people have short attention spans, and so that drive to get constant updates and something new all the time, sometimes the story is not baked yet. Sometimes the cake's not ready to come out of the oven yet. I think also that drive to be first rather than be right all the time, get it out there. If it's not confirmed, we'll go back and fix it later. I've not seen that personally. That's not what we do in our newsroom, but I think it does happen. And that's one of the dangers, I think, with a digital first approach.
Right. What is your opinion on growing in technology and stuff like that? Do you like that we're going this way, or would you prefer paper, that type of stuff?
I would say I think change is always good in our business, and it's changing fast. It's evolving. Just over the last few years, you're seeing newsrooms start coming together in terms of corporate buyouts and things like that. So there's less competition. I think that's good or bad depending on your approach. I think it can be a good thing when you have more resources to cover more local news stories. That's been my experience since our station was bought out. But in terms of the digital approach, I think it doesn't matter whether you like it or not, right? It just is happening. And so you have to try to take what you've learned in your principles of journalism. Principles of journalism haven't changed, guys. It is just the way of delivering news has.
Do you guys have any questions y'all want to ask?
So I feel like news, like wanting to go into a broadcast news job, has gotten kind of into a bad light. So how would you put it into saying, like, what would you say to get a college graduate to go into broadcast news to put it in a better light?
Well, I guess the first question I'd ask is, why is it in a negative light? What do you think's happened? Can you expand on
I
that?
just feel like the way news media is portrayed now compared to, say, almost like 20 years ago, with either people saying it's not trustworthy or saying it's possibly a dying medium. But you saying it is going digitally, it's a whole nother thing. But how would you put it in a better light, bring it to life, of saying, like, why are you inspired every day to kind of go into news?
I think when people are critical of quote unquote the news media, I think for the most part they think cable news. I think they think CNN and Fox News and MSNBC and all those guys, which frankly most of their programming, all three of them, is highly opinionated. And we don't do that at the local level. I think local journalism is still where you can really make a difference. And I think anyone coming out of college, you're excited to change the world, right? I mean, you've spent the last 4 years studying, you've worked hard, and now you want to go put that to work. I think there's a misconception that you're going to go into this highly divisive, highly politicized environment like CNN or Fox, where you have to go in and you have to think the right things and you have to fall inside this box. When I can tell you that at the local news level, we have a newsroom full of diverse opinions and backgrounds, and we frankly just don't cover things like politics except at really the local level. You end up covering stories that impact people's lives. You end up talking to people in your community and finding out what's going on in their lives, and you're talking about issues that matter to them. I know that everybody likes to post on Facebook and Twitter about politics and their opinions, but really the job day to day, guys, you're going to go to a city council meeting today and hear from people about what they want to see in a park downtown and get feedback on that. Or we did a story yesterday. There's a mother whose son is 18 years old. He's autistic and deaf, works at Whataburger, okay? He saved up $1,000 for a scooter to get himself to work every day, and someone stole it yesterday. And she reached out to us saying, can you help get the word out that this happened? And we thought that was a good human interest story. And we told his story. And honestly, it doesn't matter whether the reporter or that person voted for Biden or Trump at that point. So I guess I would tell students that you really have a chance to impact people's lives at the local news level. It's not the national stuff. You're not going to really do stories about the healthcare or the COVID package, other than the local impact, which would be like, okay, people getting stimulus checks, how many people in Lubbock might get those? How would the city use the money that it's going to get from this package? And every now and then you'll talk to our congressman, but it's the media. Yes, you're right. It's a divisive thing, but people still value local news, and they care about what we do. And if you want to change lives and if you want to tell stories that matter, local news is where it's happening.
And then, thank you for that answer. That's amazing.
I talk too much, I'm sure.
No.
I am passionate about it though, because I have my friends who like to tweak me all the time about being in the fake news media and stuff. And I mean, it's all for laughs and stuff. But it does get at that idea that people don't like the media right now, even though they need the media and they want the information, but they hate the media for giving it to them. But again, a lot of that is directed at the national level and the Foxes and the CNNs and stuff like that. Local news, though, people still value that, and it's an important community service, I think, and it's a noble profession.
And what is something you wish you knew, graduating as a college graduate, that you knew about the industry?
Don't get into it if you want to make a lot of money. You have to love it. If you don't want to do the work and do the job, don't get into this, because this isn't a job that people get into for the money. When you're starting out, it's a grind, and you might work some long days. You might work from 9 in the morning to 10 at night, maybe on some days, because you might have a few stories that you have to do. So just know that at the beginning, you're going to have to grind, and you're not going to get to do what you want to do right away. I mean, I got into this because I wanted to review movies. Okay. Guess how many media companies actually pay people to review movies? Not many anymore. Do what you have to do, and then maybe you might get to do what you want to do. I know a lot of people listening want to get into sports, maybe, or fashion, or something else like that. And guys, those opportunities are there. But if you're not willing to go and beat the streets and do a story about electricity rates, or something around the community, if you're not willing to get out there and talk to people, you're not going to be given necessarily the opportunity to do what you want to do. So those are two things I would tell people. Don't expect to make a lot of money, and don't expect to do what you want right away. But I will tell you this: you might just fall in love with something you had no idea that you were going to be into. You might start doing news and be like, oh my God, this matters. People talk to me in the grocery store. People tell me they watch, and I don't get a boost from that for my ego. I get a boost from it because, wow, people make us part of their lives, and it matters to them.
Kind of to piggyback off of that, you are very clearly passionate about what you do, and that's fantastic. You don't see much of that today. And but with that, before you started pursuing that career, what were some of your inspirations to want to pursue that career? Like, what made you realize, oh, this is something I really love doing, I want to continue it for as long as you have?
I'll bet all four of you guys have a teacher who at some point in your life gave you some encouragement, and you're probably thinking of who he or she is right now. That one teacher who turned the light on for you. In high school, I had a teacher tell me, you know what, you're a really good writer. And at the time, I wanted to be a lawyer, I thought, because I love to argue with people, and why not? That sounded like a good profession. But when she said you can write, and you need to find something that you can write about, make it into a profession, I started putting 2 and 2 together and thought, well, I love to write. I love movies. Maybe I could write about movies. That's a job. I could do that. But as I mentioned, you're not going to get to do that right away. So I took a job doing news, and I was good at that. And so now I do a show every weekday morning where I get to do news, but I also do movie reviews once or twice a week. It's my show. I can do what I want. And so you might get to actually incorporate something that you love. But it really all started with that one teacher. That's what I like about teaching so much. I want to be that teacher to turn the light on for someone. If anyone can get a little encouragement and feel like what they want to do isn't stupid, and that their dreams aren't ridiculous, that would really be something that it'd make everything worth it. That's really what I want.
And secondly, it sounds like you've covered quite a lot in your long career, and you've gotten to do what you finally wanted to do in terms of movie reviews. But what's the one big thing that you really want to cover but have yet to cover in your career, like story-wise?
The cool thing about being a news anchor, because I don't go out on the field and report, I go into work every morning and I get about 20 stories and I write them and I look at them and I decide what's the best way to tell these stories. Um, I guess it would be really cool to interview a president. I've gotten to interview some big name celebrities over the year. I've talked to Tom Cruise and Ben Affleck and Angelina Jolie and Liam Neeson and Bryan Cranston and just a ton of celebrities over the years. But it would be really cool, not even the current serving president, maybe just any living president. I would really enjoy just sitting across from them for a long form interview and finding out what it's like day to day. Not even like a hard hitting, like, why did you do that? And that was terrible policy, right? Which isn't my job as a journalist anyway to do that. But I think it would be interesting just to like find out who these men are. I would enjoy that.
And kind of the last one from me. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have some extra?
No, I like that question.
Thanks. And but kind of the last thing from me, and you're talking about pursuing all these stories, but what's one main rule that you want all journalists to follow when they're pursuing a story? Doesn't matter what it could be, but just what's the one main rule that you've kind of learned that everybody should follow when pursuing a story?
Be fair. There are multiple sides to every story. Be fair, but also don't feel the pressure to represent sides that are not fair. What I mean by that is if you're doing a story, you don't need to get every there are tons of conspiracy theories out there now. I don't think it's unfair to leave those out of your coverage because there's some really, really ridiculous stuff out there. Having said that, I think it's so important to be fair because like Ryan mentioned, media is not in the best light right now. And the big criticism is you're biased and you go into everything with your opinions and you've got an agenda. You know what? I do. I will tell you, I am biased 100%. I have strong opinions about things just like anybody does. But if I'm doing my job, if I'm doing it well, you'll never know what those are.
Thank you. Those are all of my questions. Thank you so much.
And I have a question regarding the industry you're in and what you do, talk in front of people, in front of the camera. And that's what I want to do myself. And I love covering sports and can see myself doing it in the future. Do you have any recommendations on what a current or soon to be college grad should be doing at the time or post graduation as far as filling out applications or any advice you could come up with?
So here, I'll give you a couple. First of all, I'll give you the key to getting a job in TV, like that'll put you ahead of the game. Writing. I can find 100 people who look great in front of the camera and who, present themselves well. But if you can't write a story and express yourself well, I'd rather find someone I don't have to teach that to. So really focus on your writing. The second thing I would tell you is when you're filling out those applications, take whatever you can get. If it is weekend producer, if it's a photographer, if it's just a beat reporter, don't limit yourself to sports jobs because they are super competitive because everybody wants them. Take the job you can get your foot in the door. And once you prove yourself to your news director that, hey, Connor's really good. He's been good on the air. He does whatever we need. He's a good writer. He says he's interested in sports. Next time a position opens, you're already there. And I can tell you that management much prefers to just find someone in-house if they can than having to go and sift through a billion applications. So take whatever you can get. Don't take a job you're not qualified for. Let me say that. Don't just take a job saying, yes, I can do that. Yes, I know how to shoot video. If you don't say that. They'll figure it out pretty fast. Get your writing done. Constantly work on your writing. If it's a blog, if it is even if it's a vlog, write a script, tell a story well. That'll put you so far ahead, and then just take the job you're qualified for, take whatever you can get, and then your foot's in the door.
Well, thank you for that. And I got one more question, and I don't know if they have any others, but to end on a fun one, hearing all of those incredible celebrities that you've talked to, I've got to know if there's a favorite interview that you've conducted in your career.
For a celebrity or just anyone? I can
It
do
could
a
be.
celeb. I'll start with a celebrity. I've actually interviewed.
Yeah.
I've interviewed Bryan Cranston twice. It was when Breaking Bad first came out, like the first season, when no one knew what it was. You got Malcolm in the Middle guy making meth. That sounds weird. I interviewed him, and he was the most genuine, kind, down-to-earth guy. Found out what my name was, because the way these happen, guys, is you have a celebrity sitting in a room looking at a camera in Los Angeles or something, and it's all over satellite, and they just line up. You have a time, and you get a 10-minute window with them, and you get that spot. So, but he bothered to learn my name, and when he answered questions, said my name, and just could not have been kinder. And then the next year for season 2, I got to talk to him and Aaron Paul at the same time. And he pretended to remember me. I knew he didn't, but it was still just that idea of, wow, this guy has every reason to just be a total dick to me. I'm some little reporter in Lubbock, Texas that he's probably never even heard of. I thought he was super nice. The other interview that was really cool was, y'all know the Beatles, right? George Harrison, his sister was in town, and she was promoting this Beatles tribute band that she has ownership in. I sat down with her, and I did like 20-minute interview with her, put together like a 3-minute story, and her people and she liked the interview so much that they put it on her website, because she just thought I did such a good job. And I was raised a Beatles fan, you guys. I know so much trivia and so much nonsense. My head's so full of it. But to have George Harrison's sister think that I did one of the best interviews she's ever had, that was really nice.
I think that'd
Kinda
be
going
nice
on.
for. Yeah, no, I think that'd be nice for anyone, and to interview her. That's even
It's
though
close. She
even
looked
though
kind of like George.
even though it's his sister, I was gonna say that's still badass.
I know. It was
Yeah.
really exciting.
Uh,
I will tell you I'll name names. So Angelina Jolie was not into it. And I actually interviewed her when I was at Texas Tech writing for the newspaper there. It was a phone interview. And she was so annoyed. There was a group of us. It was kind of like a press conference. She was so annoyed at every question. And I asked her about her dad. Her dad is John Voight. And at the time, she and him were on the outs. Okay, they were not on good terms. And John Voight was in the first Tomb Raider movie, but not in the second Tomb Raider movie, which was what she was doing interviews for. So I just wanted to know, hey, so is the reason John Voight's not in the second movie because you guys are on the outs, and what's going on with that? Oh, she was not happy to get that question, and I pretty much got hung up on after that. So, I'm sorry I asked a real question, but I'm interested in daddy issues with a big name celebrity, right? I think others might be.
And going kind of keeping it, fun. What is your favorite like newsroom memory, like best experience?
This is gonna sound cheesy. I can't think of one that really stands out, but there are just some days when we do a really good show. Like when it comes together. The most recent example was we were on the air when Trump left the White House, okay? And we're in Lubbock, Texas, so there's a lot of Trump people here. So we were able to duck in throughout the morning and carry live coverage. Like, okay, here he is leaving the White House, and here he is getting on Air Force One last time, and here he is. So we got to duck in throughout the morning, and I really was pushing my producers to get this. And we just did an awesome broadcast that morning, and it just felt like you played a really good game, right? It's like Tech beating Texas or something, just like we carried the Trump stuff. We served our viewers well. It's what they would have wanted to see this morning. Maybe cathartic for some of them to see their favorite president say goodbye, whatever the case may be. And I know that's a political thing, and I mentioned we don't do politics a lot, but this wasn't. This is the President of the United States leaving the White House for the last time. And we did such a good job that morning. I thought we did a good job on the power outage stuff too. And real recently, when power outages were going on in Lubbock, rolling blackouts, I got the LP&L guy live on the air over Skype, and I made it happen fast. Those are two recent examples, but whenever you can push your staff to do more than they think, like, no, there's no way we can get him in time. Like, call him now. Just ask. Like, why not, man? Just try. All they can do is tell you no. I think people are so afraid of hearing no. But whenever you do a great show, or whenever you just nail something, man, I just really get high on it. I really do, and it just reminds me why I do this job, because I think when I can serve my viewers well, man, there's nothing more rewarding.
Sweet, thank you. And one more thing, and then I'll let Luciana wrap us up here. Could you quickly introduce yourself, like name and then title and kind of like your profession and position?
Sure. My name is James Eppler. I am the managing editor and lead anchor for Good Day Lubbock on Fox 34 here in Lubbock, Texas, weekday mornings 7 to 10. And I also am a journalism instructor at Texas Tech. I teach broadcast journalism and editing. I've taught global journalism, and I've taught visual storytelling. I will tell you that we just changed our hours. We used to be on from 5 to 9. And that was for the first 13 years. We just changed hours like a month ago. So I would have to get up at 2. I've gotten up for work at 2 in the morning for 13 years, every day. And that sucked. And it's probably aged me in ways like I've got bags under my eyes. They check at the airport. It's probably aged me in ways I don't even realize yet. But that's the kind of thing you do when you love your work. Like, okay, I'm getting up at 2 in the morning. It made Super Bowl Sundays suck for a long time, but it's paid off. And now I'm sleeping more, and I'm probably in a better mood around my wife and son all the time. So,
well, I have one more. Sorry, Ryan. I have one more.
Go ahead.
So you said you were you didn't say you were a sports fan, but mentioning the Super Bowl Sunday, I kind of assumed with the inside the TNT broadcast that they do with Kenny, Shaq and them, that's really famous. Can you just kind of tell me your thoughts on that and how it's been so successful and what they do, and if you're familiar with it?
So I'm about to disappoint you, Connor. I've not watched that a lot. Now I've seen the guys who do NBA, and I listen to sports radio. I listen to Colin Cowherd sometimes, and Dan Patrick occasionally. I think that what we're seeing in sports, and when you do a morning show, you have to be kind of an expert at everything. So you have to be able to do sports and politics, so you have to know a little bit of everything. I wasn't a sports fan before about 12 years ago, and then I just kind of sort of became one because I was covering it so much. I had to talk about it so much. What, Connor, I'm seeing in sports, though, at the national level is gravitating away from just X's and O's, balls and strikes, strategy. It's really more issue-focused sports coverages now, especially on ESPN, and they've really leaned into sports and politics and social justice and things like that.
Especially ESPN.
Yeah, and I think there's a market for that, certainly, but I also think there's just a market for, hey, I just want to talk about, is Tom Brady the GOAT or not, And so I think there's a little something for everybody. But sports is one of those things that's just kind of, it's like movies. It's kind of the great equalizer. Everybody watches it, and and you can tackle it any way you want to.
Thank you for that answer.
I will tell you, I'm not a big fan. ESPN's really put all their money and stuff into Stephen A. Smith, and I can tell you that, man, I think that guy is. It's an act. It's an act. Clearly, it's not an act for me, because not everything is a 9 or a 10. With him, everything is a 9 or a 10. You can't just talk about something normally. Everything has to be on point like this. And you watch my damn show. That's not for me. I'm glad, it's glad for some people, but not everything's a 9 or a 10. Sometimes stuff is just like a 4, and that's okay.
Well, you hit it on the head with that Stephen A. impression.
Well, I can tell you that we carried his radio show in Lubbock, the station I worked for. We carried his radio show for a couple of months, and we got so many calls from people saying that guy's terrible and I won't listen. But you just got to think about who the audience is in Lubbock, Texas. Stephen A. does great up in the Northeast and along the coast, like East Coast, West Coast. He's not a Midwest and Southwest guy, and it didn't work here. Dan Patrick does great here, and even some of the other Fox Sports broadcasting guys like The Odd Couple and stuff does pretty well here. So I don't even think it's a race thing necessarily. I think it's a personality thing, and he didn't work here.
Sweet. Is that everyone? We all good?
I'll take more. I'm not afraid, but.
Actually, I think I'll just ask one more question. So how do you, like, going back to like graduating and stuff, how do you think like the profession will grow, like once like we're in it, or at least we all graduate?
Mm-hmm. Again, be proficient in digital. Know how to speak to an audience. Every day I get a report from our digital editor about what stories are getting the most clicks and which personalities at the station are getting the most attention. That's just where the focus is. But writing's number one, and then visual storytelling, because even if we go digital, writing is still super important. You got to get them to pay attention to you, right? And writing's the way to do that, even if you're on camera. It's hard to say how things are going to change more. More consolidation, though, seems to be kind of the trend right now. So be ready for that. You'll go to work for a big corporation and probably not someone that's locally owned.
So did everybody get their questions? Just making sure. Okay. Well, I really want to thank you for doing this. It means a lot, and
Sure.
You're awesome. Love the personality that you have.
What can I tell you? You get me talking about something I love, and I'll go on forever. But I'm glad you guys have a show that you're doing, and I wish you the best of luck with it. And let me know what else I can do to help you along the way. Okay.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Industry Podcast. A special thanks to James Eppler, who came out and sat down with us to talk about his experiences and what we should expect from the journalism industry. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and stay tuned for another episode of the Industry Podcast.